Well, do we have a lovely full moon coming up for you on June the 3rd? It's a Sagittarius full moon, and I couldn't be more excited because it's on my Jupiter. And so I pulled a card for it that will go make your head explode, or it did mine anyway. But before I dive into all of that, would you please hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment at the end of the video. Any subscribes, thumbs up, comments, all that kind of stuff help my algorithms on YouTube and get the videos spread more widely and get more visible, which consequently also earns me a little bit of money. Also, before I dive into everything else, I am Louise Eddington, the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology. And I'd like to invite you to check out below my Venus retrograde heroine's journey class. It's beginning on July the 19th, but I'm advertising it well ahead of time to give people a payment plan to pay for it. If you're seeing this before the end of May 2023, there's a 3-pay option. If you're seeing this after June the 1st, there is a 2-pay option. And the class is an 8-week class, 7-week class, 8 calls, 7 weeks, mix of myth, storytelling, shamanic healing practices, and of course, astrology, taking you really into the underworld of your soul so that you can grow and create. And it is a life-changing class, and I can't take credit for it because I dreamed it thanks to Venus. And I love Venus. Anyway, wow, this full moon. First, before we look at the chart, I pulled a card. It's a Sagittarius full moon, and Sagittarius is Jupiter ruled. And I kid you not, I just pulled the Wheel of Fortune out of this deck, the Jupiter card. And this is the principle of opportunity, breakthrough, and prosperity. And I want to read you a quote. So this is from Prospering Woman by Ruth Ross. All prosperity begins in the mind and is dependent only upon the full use of our creative imagination. So the Wheel of Fortune is the universal principle of abundance, prosperity, and expansion. In astrological terms, this is Jupiter, the planet of luck, opportunity, and abundance. So this symbol reminds us that, like the goddess Fortuna in Roman mythology, that we can turn our lives in more fortunate and positive directions by being objective, like the Sphinx, that's at the top of the wheel, flexible, like the monkey. You can see the monkey on there as well, and reaching for new opportunities and ways to express our creative power like the crocodile. The stars exploding into lightning bolts represent the experience of awakening to the possibilities that can turn our lives in more positive and expansive directions. Often these experiences are referred to as the aha or peak experience, or that light bulb effect, where we expand and feel inspired. The swirls in the background are a reminder that expansion and abundance comes with the willingness to change and keep things moving by taking risks and being open to new opportunities. Wow. Okay. So just amazing, right? So this full moon is on June the 3rd at 2023 at 11:41 p.m. Eastern. So it will actually be on June the 4th for many of you if we use universal time. I use Washington, D.C. time because I'm in the States. So it's June the 3rd or June the 4th, which makes this either a 7 or 8 day, depending where you are. Universal day, that is. It's if we add all the numbers up together. But it's a 6-month and a 3-day in the US, or a 6-month and a 3-day in the UK and beyond. So just in the 6 months, that's a very creative number. So is the 3. I'm not going to spend too much time on the numbers though, because the astrology is far more fascinating. So let's dive in and take a look at the chart. Well, I will be looking at the numbers of the degrees because that's far more interesting to me. So if you can see, this is where the moon is. The moon will be at 13 degrees, 18 minutes Sagittarius. It's a full moon. So from our perspective, we're in between. We in the earth are between the sun and moon. And the moon is receiving the light of the sun at its fullest. So it's the full moon, well lit. And so here you can see the sun in Gemini. Now, the sun is, I'm going to say, conjunct Juno, which is partnership, contracts coming together, the Hieros Gamos, the divine sacred marriage. So we've got all of that coming together. If you can see this, we've got a trine from the moon to Pallas Athena and Mars over here in Leo. And I'll talk about what all this means. And a trine from the sun, or a sextile from the moon to Chariklo, the grace spinner, the centaur. Again, I'll explain what all of that means. But look, this is a mystic rectangle, which is a very all configurations have their pluses and minuses, but the mystic rectangle is generally a very harmonious, balanced energy, because it contains both trines and sextiles, which are more supportive, and it also contains two oppositions, which provide more tension to bring change. So it's a very balanced aspect, the mystic rectangle. Now then, what other things have we got? Well, this is also in a square to asteroid Lilith and to centaur Nessus, forming a wide T-square, I'm going to say, and I'll talk about more about what that means. The last other aspect really is a trine from the moon. It's by 5 degrees, but I'm going to say it counts, to Chariklo's husband, who is Chiron, the centaur. So we've got quite a lot to talk about with all those things. Other things I'm going to quickly mention as we go along to talk about. I've left the Galactic Center on here because the Galactic Center's in an almost 2-year-long square to Neptune, or Neptune square to the Galactic Center. And on this full moon, Ceres, the Great Mother, is about to come up and oppose Neptune and square the Galactic Center. So we do have this mutable T-square too. So there's a lot of mutability in this, with Sagittarius and Gemini also being mutable signs. So we'll talk more about that as well. And there was something else I wanted to mention. Oh yes, Venus. Venus is just finishing up her time in Cancer. By the time of this full moon, she will be back in bounds. She's been out of bounds, acting out of character. June the 1st, Venus is back in bounds and about to move into Leo and heading towards that retrograde that I talked about, okay, which will be in the sign of Leo. But on this full moon, she has conjunct Black Moon Lilith, okay, and so we've got this kind of very feminine energy coming in. And she is the lesser benefic and Jupiter is the greater benefic. And so all of this is very abundant, very fecund, but it's all about change as well, and that wheel of fortune changing. So I couldn't believe it when I pulled that card. Now, Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, where the moon is, and Jupiter is on the North Node, the Taurus North Node. So that's very relevant too, and I'll be talking about all of that. So I'm going to stop the share and just talk to you. So first of all, this is a Sagittarius full moon, and I'm a Sagittarius. I have Mercury, Mars, or Sun, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Pallas Athena, Juno, and ascendant in Sagittarius. So I know Sagittarius well. Sagittarius are the philosophers of the zodiac, and they are the wanderers and the wanderers with an O and an A. They like to travel. Sagittarius likes travel, likes movement, likes to shoot its arrows to the future. And it's always wondering about the world with an O, wondering why this happens, why that happens. And that's why they're the philosophers of the zodiac. They like to experience life. They like to experience travel. They like to experience the divine. They like to experience, they learn through experience. Well, of course, I would think Sagittarius is the most amazing sign, but it is an optimistic sign. And this full moon is, to my mind, full of opposition, full of optimism. Okay, now on the other side, we have the sun in Gemini, conjunct Juno, the Hieros Gamos, the divine sacred marriage. And the sun in Gemini is very much about decisions and sociability and communication and mixing with the community as well. And it's all much more exciting energy. There's change. They are mutable signs. Sagittarius and Gemini are both mutable signs. They like lots of change, and lots of change is coming. And yes, not everybody is excited about change, but this full moon is going to bring change. Now, I mentioned that it's forming a mystic rectangle. Well, the mystic rectangle is formed by Pallas Athena, who is the wise owl, the cosmic strategist. She is the goddess of wisdom and wise justice. And Pallas Athena is conjunct Mars in the sign of Leo on this mystic rectangle. And that's a fixed sign. So we've got the full moon on a mutable axis of truth, knowledge, and understanding, with Pallas Athena and Mars and Chariklo in Aquarius in the fixed signs of let's make things manifest and real. So we're bringing the change, and we're going to then create something better. And Pallas Athena and Chariklo are particularly in a very close aspect to the full moon, because they're both at 13 degrees. Pallas Athena, as I said, is that wise owl. You can see the owl behind me. And she is creating strategies to create a better future and to create wiser leadership in the sign of Leo. Whereas we have Chariklo, the wife of Chiron. Her name literally means grace spinner. She is a space holder. To my mind, she is spinning and weaving new stories. She's untangling some of the mess that we've been in and creating something or holding space for us to create something that's much more beautiful, much more aligned. I often think of the red thread when I think of Chariklo, because she is that untangler of the spool of the story of life and holding space for us to weave a more harmonious story as we move forward. And we have all of this energy. I'm just going to concentrate on the main ones at 13 degrees. The moon, the mother, Pallas Athena, the wise justice goddess, Chariklo, that graceful space holder, and then the sun, the very core of our universe. And they're all at 13 degrees. Now, 13 is known as the number of the witch. 13 is a number that cleanses and purifies. It's 13. This is according to a site called ridingthebeast.com, by the way. 13 is a number of suffering and death. It's the death card in the tarot, but it symbolizes the death to the matter or of oneself and the birth to the spirit, passage to a higher level of existence. For the Kabbalists, the number 13 is the meaning of the snake, the dragon, Satan and the murderer, but it's also the number of the Virgin Mary, whose mission it was to crush the head of Satan. The 13 is the number of the cross as well. So because with the 1 plus 3, we get 4, so we get the cross of matter. Now, 13 has been associated with the divine feminine for years, but it has so much more to do with this. It's been celebrated not celebrated, I should say, but it's been claimed to be unlucky because it is the number of the divine feminine, the patriarchal, hierarchical, pyramidical society that we've lived in from this top down to the masses at the bottom, has claimed that 13 is unlucky, but actually it's really lucky in my opinion. 13, if you think about it, is the zodiac that we're in. We have 12 signs and 12 houses in the horoscope with us, or the earth, at the very center of it. So there's 12 spokes, 12 rays with one center point. Okay, so that is a very balanced and very lucky number as well. So we've got, it's the number of the eternal return. 13th hour is also the first as well. Okay, so the number also represents the principle of activity, 3 exerting in the unit of a whole, 10, which contains it, which makes it produce only one cycle of perpetually identical renewal. There's so much more. And the number is represents the Son of God, according to Abellio. And the 13th mystery of the tarot does not have a name. It marks the uncertainty, the hesitation, the fickleness, or again, a transformation, the end of something, and a renewal, a rupture. That is to say, a very important change. 13 is also associated with transmuting vices into virtues. It's about upheaval so that new ground can be broken. I just think the number 13 is absolutely magical. I absolutely love Friday the 13th. I just love the number personally myself. So let's take that bad luck thing out of the 13. And the number 13 is so repeated in this. It's at the cornerstones of this mystic rectangle in this full moon. So whilst this mystic rectangle and the full moon itself are in yang signs, or so-called masculine air and fire signs, those are the elements of air and fire is creative power. Earth has a different kind of creation, but this is air and fire. This is the number of ideas, of passion, of action. So this full moon is going to be very fired up with all this fire and air going on in there. It's quite wonderful. Add in the fact we've got Mars conjunct Pallas Athena, Mars in Leo, very fired up to create, very fired up to lead from the heart for the good of the people over there in Aquarius. So this is, you're going to be minds on fire during this full moon, especially if you have any energies around those 13 degree mark of Sagittarius, Gemini, Leo, or Aquarius, especially those signs, but really 13 degrees of any signs, right on my own Jupiter and Pallas Athena. So this full moon speaks to me like Kerpel. I'm very excited about it. Now, a couple of other things I did mention. We have also really forming in this. I'm actually going to show you again quickly on the chart. So if we look at this, we have the full moon opposition here, square to asteroid Lilith. She is the talk to the hand, physical asteroid that's in the asteroid belt. She's the very original female in the also mutable sign of Virgo, which is the sign of one who is whole and to oneself. And that's widely, but coming towards exact again. They were exact before Lilith went retrograde, opposition to Nessus, who has been revealing abuses of power in the sign of Pisces. This is a mutable grand cross, really. We've got Sagittarius over here, the moon, Virgo, asteroid Lilith in Virgo, the sun in Gemini, and Centaur Nessus in the sign of Pisces, making a mutable grand cross of change. You know, grand crosses are a really tense aspect with 4 oppositions or 4 squares, depending if you call it a grand cross or a grand square. And that is a real push to change. With the outlets being Lilith and Chariklo, that kind of takes us out of the tension of the grand square. So altogether, I don't want to get too complicated with it because there's a lot going on in this chart. I do want to say that this is going to push us toward change. But the big thing about the Sagittarius moon is truth. Sagittarius can be dogmatic too, I have to say, but the Sagittarius Gemini axis is about truth and knowledge. And that's square to Nessus. I really think more truths are going to be revealed. And I think we are coming into wholeness. You know, I've been very excited about 2023 from the start. And the more we get into it, the more I see that this year is pivotal towards what we're moving towards. Now, there's always going to be, you know, stuff going on that we don't like, and there's always going to be, you know, this and that. But things are starting to change. And you say, what? Abortion rights being taken away and things like that. But I kind of feel that that's going to fire people up to say, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And we keep finding out more and more about corruption with Supreme Court judges in the US, you know, with people, Boris Johnson in the UK with Partygate or whatever it was called, things like that. We keep finding out about how corrupt our leaders and people who have power in our patriarchal institutions, about how corrupt they have been. And so I think things are starting to be revealed, and this is going to start to change that wheel of fortune. Of course, after this month, and moving into July, after this full moon and into the next lunations, we do have the pivotal part of the year with the Venus retrograde and Pluto squaring the moon's nodes. Of course, more on that later, but you know, it's going to be a big summer, and this year is going to look very different by the end of it. I'm going to say, in so many ways. Okay, so I did mention as well that this full moon is in a wide aspect to Chiron in Aries, with Mars involved in the mystic rectangle as well. So that brings in and unlocks this key to healing as well, knowing that we can act differently, we can create differently. It's just, I just keep looking at this and it's just like going, yes, we're going to change. Yes, the wheel of fortune is changing. Yes, we can move into more abundant times, so long as they're based on our core values. As mentioned, that Jupiter, the card I pulled, is conjunct the North Node, the Taurus North Node, that has been pushing us or asking us or inviting us to move towards more sustainability, more really value-driven life. I don't know about you, but my life has changed dramatically, or my outlook on life has changed dramatically over the last couple of years. And, you know, it's really been looking at what do I really value, and kind of, you know, really getting rooted and grounded in what's sustainable and feeling more abundant in that, which involves gratitude and being loving what you already have. And instead of just always fighting for more, extra stuff. And this, to my mind, is with Jupiter in Taurus on the Taurus North Node, is saying you can have abundance. You have to be grateful for what you have first. And that's the shift in perspective, which is very much about this full moon as well. Of course, this is not a standalone. This is part of a cycle of many, many things. And then we've got all these energies at 27 degrees pointing to the galactic center. Venus and Black Moon Lilith at 27 and 28 of Cancer are in a quincunx to the galactic center at 27 degrees Sagittarius. And that's really saying that we, need to shore up our basis of security. Think about what we really love, what really nurtures us. Also, Venus and Neptune are all in aspect to Ceres, the Great Mother, in the sign of Virgo, which is and coming up for an exact opposition to Neptune. I'll do a whole video on that. But this is tuning us into new information from the core of our galaxy, the black hole Sagittarius A that's at the center, galactic center of our whole galaxy, saying, you are being given this opportunity, you are being given this new knowledge to act and create differently. All right, I'm just going to take a step back and see if there's anything else I want to look at in this chart. I do want to mention, of course, that Mercury is way past the shadow of retrograde by this point. My light's flickering. Maybe I've got some ghosts coming somewhere. Anyway, Mercury and Uranus are conjunct on this full moon, and that's exciting too. Uranus is the lord of lightning bolts, and Mercury is the transitioner. He transmutes, he crosses boundaries, and this is going to be bringing the change as well. And so this is just a full moon that is going to change the direction that we're in, ask us to move into things. By the time we are kind of moving into the next one after this, the next lunation cycle after this one will be on June the 18th. By that point, the nodes will have almost finished their journey in Taurus and Scorpio. We'll have hardly any Taurus energy left. And we are, oh, wow, I'm just looking at that new moon. Whoa, that's on June the 18th. Holy, holy, holy. Well, but less on that one now. I just want to stick on this full moon. A full moon is a time of completion. And this is, just to put it all in a nutshell, this is a big turning of the wheel, to go back to that card. Fortunes always change. Some go up, some go down, of course. And I feel for those whose fortunes are going down. But overall, this is about opportunity, breakthrough, and prosperity. And I think the key to understanding it is Jupiter's conjunction with the North Node, is saying, yes, we can bring healing. Yes, we can bring opportunity, but we have to be open to potential. I think it's a really good time to ask questions about what is possible here. Where are there potentials that I'm not seeing? Tell the universe that you're open to all possibilities, and say, I release anything that holds me from seeing what's possible for the future here. Jupiter and Sagittarius are very future oriented. Jupiter is kind of Santa in a way anyway. He is what Santa Claus is named after. And this is such a Jupiterian full moon, saying if you can be open and if you can shift with the tides of time and be open to new possibilities and perspectives, then you can create something really amazing at this time. And say, release any kind of thinking that holds you back from doing that. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't, would be a good quote to use for this full moon. I do know that some people are having real problems and you can't magic yourselves and Santa Claus your way out of the real problems. And I do send you love, but there is still some possibilities in here. And I did talk about gratitude. Perhaps start a gratitude list coming up to this full moon on June the 3rd, so you can start to see what you have, and then and somehow more seems to come when you are grateful for what you already have. And I'm not talking necessarily about riches of money. I'm talking about abundance in all areas of life. Okay. So then let's have a look at the symbols. But before I go into the symbols for this full moon, I want to remind you to check out the Venus retrograde class. I promise you, it's the most amazing class. Thank you, Venus, for it. Venus is speaking to the Galactic Center on this full moon. I do want to mention one other thing, actually. I'm just going to share the chart again. I've remembered it from my own chart. But we have this other anomaly in our cosmos called the Great Attractor. The Great Attractor is something that's pulling our galaxy towards it over aeons of time. And the Great Attractor is at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. So this full moon is conjunct the Great Attractor, as well as having many aspects pulling towards the Galactic Center. So, you know, we are being pulled to greater forces. We really are during this time and this year. And we are being pulled into this new paradigm in so many ways. But we'll go off that. I could go on forever, you know me. All right. So the Sabian symbol for this lovely Sagittarius full moon that you just know your friendly neighborhood astrologer, Louise, will be loving because it's on her Jupiter, is the symbol is the pyramids and the Sphinx. Whoa. This is a symbol of the ultimate criterion of reality provided by the common or physical world of normal experience. Here at the extreme of man's enduring works in material substance, there are myriads of testimonials to human genius across the surface of the globe, and these provide the fabric for a fellowship of creative capacity and give even the least of individuals an assurance in their self-sustainment as they continue to make their new or better mark on the face of events. The key word is certification. When positive, this degree is effective practicality through a gift for bringing real imagination to everyday living. And when negative, ridiculous efforts to fill the shoes of giants. Okay. So, I don't know if I want to read all of that page for this one, but I do want to have a look at James Burgess for the pyramids and the Sphinx. He says the truth and wisdom are never entirely forgotten, but hide in symbols and memories waiting to be revisited when their time returns. He said this is about reclaiming old teachings that passed the test of time. It is here being taught that the spirituality of the new age is not new at all. We are in fact remembering what was once known and practiced by the ancients before it was forgotten. Long ago, there was a golden age of harmony, and yet we have fallen through the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, and are now in the Iron Age of industrialization. We have all but forgotten everything we once knew. yet kept alive by ancient symbols like the stone circles or the Sphinx. A profound tradition of knowledge has not completely died, and so can be reclaimed. And you know, I've talked about that for a long time, that as we move into this age of Aquarius, this new paradigm we're going to be living in at some point, we're still in the birth canal, is a mix of these really old traditions, old ways, old interconnectedness, old ways of knowing that everything is connected, but brought in a very modern way. And we are getting there. So anyway, Sagittarius 14, the Chandra symbol, a terrarium filled with carnivorous plants, deposited in the jungle, the pit, the open sewer, exposed mercilessly to the worst chaos, multiplicity, and darkness the world has to offer. Toughened, seasoned, tempered under duress, forced to get it, magnetizing the collective crises and subcurrents can give you a crash course in what has happened to the world and what must be done about it. You feel especially keenly pulled to participate in situations where anything goes and you must live by your wits or else. This is the fast, hard way to get a refresher course in the tortures and the plagues in order to come up with solutions and alternatives of the most avid, incisive, and irresistible kind. Well, that symbol to me speaks so much of what we've been going through. You know, the last few years on a collective level have been tough. You know, we've had a pandemic, we've had all this separation in the world, we've had all this crisis of corrupt leaders and politicians. Wealth inequality has gone like this. You know, the separation between the billionaires and the poorest is just appalling. We've got many crises in the world, but I do think it's because we are shifting and changing, and all this kind of had to be brought to the surface so the old ways could die out, so the new could be born. Now, I don't want to put too much just on a full moon. This is another step in the process. But just look at this card that I pulled for this, and some of these aspects and the connections to the Galactic Center and the great attractor in this full moon. The fact that the centaurs are involved, Chariklo, the beautiful grace spinner, space holder, midwife, and doula of a new paradigm is there at 13 degrees of Aquarius, helping us to birth this new way. So enjoy this full moon, remain open to possibilities and potential, and, you know, keep the hope up. HOPIUM is wonderful. There's actually a Substack I read called HOPIUM Chronicles. You can even read the HOPIUM Chronicles if you want to tap into this energy, because it's one of the most optimistic full moons I've seen for a while. It doesn't have any really gnarly, nasty aspects, to be quite honest. I really don't think it does. I think there's always, like I said, there's always going to be things happening, but overall, I think this is a good full moon where you will feel fulfilled and ready to shift and change and move to the future. So feel any butterflies as excitement, feel that energy of enthusiasm is very Sagittarian and Jupiter as well, and get creating, and remember to remain open to those possibilities. So for now, from me, it's goodbye until next time.